Thanks for inviting us into your home or your phone or wherever you are. We are sanitized and ready to go. And we want to invite you to connect with each other online. If you're watching on YouTube, get on your phone on Facebook and say hello to folks that are here. If you have prayer requests, we want you to send them in. We want this to be a day of celebration. We know there's a lot of things that are weighing on us right now, and together we want to celebrate. We want to be lifted up. We want to invigorate our hope, and we want to find our joy. In the midst of all of the uncertainty, we can be certain of this, that our hope is secure, and there is joy in our faith. Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to celebrating together with you. Once again, be safe, settle in, and welcome to the celebration.
You know, in looking for songs that fit this time, you know, there's so many songs that have been written through the years and even recently that we didn't know would fit for now, but I mean, they fit for all times when we're struggling and when we're afraid. But as we were planning this week, this song came up, and we've done it a lot here. But it just simply states that God never lets go. And He will never let go of you today. He's right there for you. And so worship with us and sing along with us. It's so great to have with us today Angie Kogutz as we're leading worship with us today, and we're so happy to have her at Riverbend today. So thank you, Angie, for coming. And let's just worship together as we claim that promise. God, you'll never let us go. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your perfect love is casting out fear. And even when I'm caught in the middle of the storms of this life, I won't turn back. I know you are near. Sing it. And I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. And if my God is with me, whom then shall I fear? Whom then shall I fear? Oh, God. lets go. I'm so thankful for that this morning, Angie, that He'll never let go of us, even in the middle of these storms.
He's with us.
You know, I believe that there's a danger in these kind of times that, especially as Christians, that we can let fear grip us. And fear is dangerous. God, I do believe, has given us freedom from fear. I mean, it's human to be fearful in a time like this when people are dying and friends, family, or we're all scared for our families and all that. But I do believe that because of what Christ did for us as we celebrated last week, you know, we're no longer slaves to that fear. You might be fearful, but don't let it bind you to a point that you can't do anything. I believe we have to stand up and say, God, you've given us power over that fear because of your Spirit. So, Angie, I want us to lead the congregation in this wonderful, wonderful song, We Are No Longer Slaves.
We're going to proclaim that this morning. He's been so good to us,
He is good to us.
even in the storm.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemy, till all my fears are gone. Sing it now. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God.
Thank you, God, from my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Oh, God, your love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. 'Cause I'm no longer a slave to fear. 'Cause I know who I am. I am a child of God, the Most High God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Say that in your homes today. I am a child of God. Oh, baby, I'm no longer a slave. Oh, not to fear, no. 'Cause I am a child of God. Yes, I'm no longer a slave to fear. I won't be a slave to fear, no. I am a child
of God. You split the sea. You split the sea.
see, so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. Perfect love. You rescued me, and I will stand and sing. I am a child of God.
You split the sea. Sing it with us.
You
it again. I'm a child. Believe it. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Amen. I hope you'll take the words of that song to heart and really claim that in your spirit this week as you continue to struggle with all the stuff we're going through. But we're no longer a slave to fear. We're children of God. We can stand on Him. So we do want to take this time to welcome all of you to the broadcast. As Dave spoke in the beginning of the service, we do hope that this music is uplifting to you, is bringing you hope, is lifting you as worship does in such a powerful way. I know in the hardest parts of my life, it's been worship songs and hymns that have come to me that God brings back to me that give me strength and sustain me through the hardest parts of my life. So we encourage you to sing these songs during the week. Worship not only with us on Sunday and all of our broadcasts that we're doing each week, but in your own homes, lead your families in worship. Take these songs, let them speak to the hearts of your families and your friends. And we just want to ask Angie now to sing. This is such a powerful song that talks about us standing on the rock. Yeah, talk about it, Angie.
This song has given me strength. I know, like, we're all in the same boat right now. And some days my faith is really strong and I'm positive and I can be a light for others. But I'll be honest with you and tell you that some days I am just numb and it's hard to feel the joy. And the only way that I can pull myself towards the light is to think on these songs and to just speak out loud the things that I know that Christ has promised me, and I know that His promises don't change. I say those things out loud, and I look around me and I see the blessings that I still have in my life, even in this time. And I realize and remind myself that He promised that He is always with me, and that He's with me even now, and that He is keeping and sustaining me, even when it may not look like it. He is still keeping and sustaining me. He is my rock, and He is the joy in my heart. The joy of the Lord has been my strength, and these songs, and especially this one, has been so moving. And I'm just going to proclaim that this morning. He's the solid rock upon which we stand. On Christ the solid rock I stand. No double-minded shifting sand. On Christ the rock I plant my feet. A firm foundation for me. On Christ the rock I place my heart and trust in who you say you are. No circumstance that blows my way will ever move this solid place. Holy, Come with your fire, consuming me. With Christ the rock, I make my plans. Partner with your purposes. Sing holy,
Good morning, Riverbend family. It is good to be with you today. Wherever you are, we are glad that you are here. My name is Samantha Cooper, and I am the student ministry pastor here at Riverbend. And I just need to give a special shout out to my students because, oh my gosh, I miss you guys so much. Mitch and Dougie and Sarah and I miss you guys. We miss hanging out with you. We miss spending time with you. You see, that's what we do in student ministry. We hang out. We spend time together in fun events and on Sunday mornings, and we go to basketball games and we go to plays, and we get to hang out with our students. But unfortunately, with the circumstances now, that's not able to happen. And it's hard, and we've struggled, but our students have really leaned in and engaged. They've been with us on Wednesday nights for our midweek meetup, where we do games and a lesson in small groups all via Zoom. And they meet us on Mondays at our Instagram Live, where we do crazy things like Mitch shaves his beard, and Dougie cooks up these weird concoctions and then eats them because students have told him to. And we've had a lot of fun with it. We meet in Bible studies and discipleship groups and just to hang out via Zoom. We've just noticed that our students crave community. And in this time, what has happened is they have more time. In the chaos, their schedules have opened up. No longer are they rushing from school to practice, to homework, to family time, to social time, to tournaments on the weekend. They just have more time. And in that time, they have taken time to lean in and engage in community, and it has been really beautiful. We know that you guys have done that too. We know that you have leaned in and engaged, whether it's here on Sunday mornings, or maybe it's during the week at our Facebook Live events, or maybe you've been out to our NDCs to volunteer, or you've donated food or funds. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you for leaning in and engaging in this community with your Riverbend family. It has been a blessing to us. It has been a blessing to our city. So we just want to say thank you. Would you pray with me this morning as we thank God for his faithfulness and provision in this community? God, we are so grateful for the Riverbend family. We are so grateful for their generosity. In this time of need, they have stepped up and leaned in and engaged, and we are so thankful for them. God, we are thankful for your provision and your blessings on us, that we may be a blessing to others. May we continue to do that, Holy Spirit. Would you stir up our hearts to continue to give and to continue to help in this time of great need. We thank you for this community, and we thank you for this time. It's in your name we pray. Amen. We are starting a new series this morning, and we're going to be in Psalm 46. So if you have your Bible, I would love for you to read along with me. Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress.
Morning, everybody. How you holding up? A little bit frustrated, confused? I'm seeing it. Seeing a growing frustration and a growing sense of unrest. I think we're all weary from this. This wasn't anything that any of us asked for or wanted. But you know what else I'm seeing? I'm seeing heroes. I'm seeing people stand up and say, count on me. Put some weight on me. I'm seeing people step up and be better neighbors and be better friends and be better sons and daughters and brothers and sisters and moms and dads. I'm seeing people who are saying, this will not break us. We will not go down without standing against our discouragement and our disappointment. I'm seeing these things. I'm seeing the heroes rise up. But I'm also seeing people who are confused and uncertain and afraid. And what I'm hearing is I'm hearing people ask, where is God in this? Where is God in this thing that we didn't ask for? Where is God in the middle of this uncertainty and confusion? And that's a very good question. And what I want us to do in the coming weeks as we continue to isolate ourselves and continue to push back against these difficult days, I want us to press into that question, where is God in this? And in order to find God in the midst of this, I want to learn the lessons from history. Because this is not the first time we've been here. And it will not be the last time we are here. And what I'd like for us to do is I'd like for us to learn from those who have been there and done that, who have walked this path before. I want us to learn the lessons of history. For example, I want us to go back to 1967. It was in 1967 that a group of engineers at the IBM R&D laboratory in San Jose, California, were tasked with the almost impossible challenge of inventing a portable data transfer system for the new IBM mainframe computers. They wanted to be able to take data from one computer to another and have it transfer in a portable manner. And they wanted to create something that would transfer the ICPL, the initial computer programming language, so they could update it from time to time in their customers' mainframes. It took them 5 years, and they experimented with every kind of technology. They tried to invent technologies, but they eventually, in 1972, patented a data transfer system that they called the 23FP, or what we know of as the floppy disk. It was an 8-inch magnetic disk encased in a paper envelope, and it held a whopping 80K of data. I send out JPEGs and GIFs with more memory required than that today, but it held 80K. It took them millions of dollars and 5 years to create this single floppy disk data transfer system. Within the next 5 years, the technology advanced so rapidly that every time someone would figure out a new way to create an advanced floppy disk, they started new companies, and the fastest growing companies in the tech world through the late 70s and into the early 80s were companies that created and built and manufactured readers and floppy disk or memory disk technology. By 1980, you could go out and you could buy a box of 3.5-inch double-sided high-density disks that held 1 megabyte of information on each disk. And what had cost $590 in 1972, you could buy 10 of these, plus an 11th one free, for $25. The technology hockey stick. In 1995, a Harvard Business School professor named Dr. Clayton Christensen wrote a Harvard Business Review article titled "Disruptive Technology Catching the Wave." And he popularized the idea that if companies were unwilling to innovate, they would die. That without disruption, without innovation, the progress of technology would leave corporate cultures behind. And they kind of popularized the term disruptive technology. Psychologists and psychiatrists and social scientists and anthropologists and neuroscientists began to study the effects of disruptive social order in people's mental health, in their behaviors. And not surprisingly, evolutionary biologists discovered that we as human beings don't like change. We don't like disruption. We are biologically hardwired to build our worlds to be stable and predictable and safe. And so this disruptive pattern that was emerging in technology, we found to be very unsettling. In fact, an American Psychological Association study back in the early 90s revealed that less than 2% of all human beings have what they call a disruptive bias. The Steve Jobs and the Elon Musks of the world are a rare commodity. 98% of us prefer for our worlds to stay the way they are. Disruption in the status quo, disruption in our routines is an unsafe environment for us. But whether we like it or not, we live in a disruptive world. We live in a world that changes without our permission, that catches us off guard, that pulls the rug out from under our feet, and the bottom falls out without warning. The only thing that we can be sure of in this life that will never change is that things will change. So how do we handle a life lived in a disruptive world? Where is God in the midst of that disruption. It's my prayer today that you would find God in this disruption. It's my prayer that we would find our hope in this time of interruption and disruption and chaos and confusion and frustration. Because God is there in the disruption. Perhaps the greatest disruption in human history, you could argue that the most disruptive story in all of human history was the life of Jesus of Nazareth. Life changed in the world based on the disruption that his life created. And perhaps second to that, the second greatest spiritual disruption in at least Western history began in the year 1516, just over 500 years ago. It was when Pope Leo X, the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church, sent a Benedictine monk on a mission to Central Europe, to the middle of the Holy Roman Empire, with the task of raising funds to rebuild St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. And he had armed this emissary named Johann Tetzel with the ex cathedra permission to sell what were called plenary indulgences. A plenary indulgence was basically a get-out-of-hell-free card. It was a promise from the Pope and the Church itself that if you made appropriate contributions to the rebuilding of St. Peter's Basilica, that you could absolve yourself of your sins, that you could even release family members and friends from purgatory. Johann Tetzel was famous for saying the sound of the coin in the offering tin was the sound of a soul being released from purgatory. It was in the year 1517 that a young German priest had an objection to this theology, and he published a paper in 1517 called The Disputation of Martin Luther Against the Power and the Efficacy of Indulgences. The legend has it that on October 31st, 1517, All Hallows Eve, that this young priest named Martin Luther nailed what we know of as the 95 Theses to the cathedral door at the church in Wittenberg, Germany. By 1520, Martin Luther was considered an enemy of the Catholic Church, and he was ordered to make an appearance at the council in the city of Worms. This was to be overseen by the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, Charles V. It was there at the Council of Worms in May 21st, 1521, that Martin Luther was officially excommunicated from the Catholic Church. And Emperor Charles V proclaimed that he was now to be considered an outlaw, an enemy of the Holy Roman Empire, and that anyone who was giving him food or shelter could be immediately arrested, that his writings were banned, and that he could be killed by anyone who encountered him without fear of legal prosecution. For the rest of his life, for the next 26 years of his life, Martin Luther lived as an outlaw and a fugitive. You could say that he was sheltering in place. It was during this time that Martin Luther found refuge in one particular psalm. It became the psalm that sustained him in his days of struggle and uncertainty. And it was the 46th Psalm. Psalm 46 was a hiding place, a refuge for him, because that's the promise of Psalm 46, that God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will have no fear. Though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and its mountains quake with surging. The 46th Psalm is one of 102 Psalms in the book of Psalms, one of 102 out of 150 that begins with a superscription. It begins with some instructions to the reader. It is one of 55 Psalms that begins with the instruction for the director of music. These were songs that were to be sung in the liturgical worship in the temple. It is the only psalm of the 150 psalms that says, according to Alamoth. It is a hapaxagonimon. It's a Hebrew word that only occurs here, and scholars debate on what it means. It has something to do with the female voice. But since women weren't allowed to lead worship in the temple, it may imply that this was to be sung in a higher register, in a falsetto voice. It was a song. But perhaps the most interesting note at the beginning of the 46th Psalm is that it was for the sons of Korah. Now, it can mean that these were of the sons of Korah, like they were to sing it. It was kind of like, this is for NSYNC, or for the Backstreet Boys, or for Boys to Men, whatever the sons of Korah was. This was to be dedicated to them, or it may have been written by them. We don't know. We don't know exactly who the sons of Korah were, but we have a clue. 500 years before the 46th Psalm was written, there was a Levitical priest named Korah. It tells us in the 16th chapter of Numbers, in the story of the Exodus, that Korah had gathered a number of his fellow priests together, and 250 people, leaders of Israel from the tribe of Reuben, and they were protesting against Moses and Aaron. They wanted to overthrow their leadership and take the people back to Egypt. Moses and Aaron fell on their faces and they pled with God for God to show the people of Israel who it was that they should follow, Korah and his followers, or Moses and Aaron. And God showed them in the most dramatic of terms. As the story is reviewed in Numbers chapter 26, it tells us that the earth opened up and Korah was swallowed up by it. And the 250 leaders of Israel were consumed by fire. But interestingly enough, there's a footnote in Numbers 26 in verse 11. It says, the line of Korah did not die out. Of the 11 Psalms that have this superscription for the sons of Korah, I like to imagine that these are hand-picked songs sung by the rebels, by the outcasts. You see, this is a glimpse of grace. A glimpse of grace, a line, a family line that had been despised for generations. After years and years was now redeemed, and they were encouraged to be the worship leaders and sing in the temple. I like to imagine that the Psalms of the sons of Korah are Psalms for the rest of us. For those of us who feel lost, for those of us who feel marginalized, for those of us who feel disenfranchised, who feel like the rug has been pulled out from under our feet and the earth beneath us has given way. This is exactly how the psalm begins. It says that we will not have fear, even though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Even though the waves foam and roar and the mountains quake with their surging and their trembling. Poetically, what is being described here in the 46th Psalm is that feeling we have right now. That feeling like nothing is predictable, nothing is stable. We don't know what the future holds. Like the very ground beneath our feet has been shaken. Everything we relied on, everything we trusted in has been violated. Literally, what this is describing is an earthquake. There were often earthquakes throughout the land of Israel, so all of the readers of the original song, those who sang it thousands of years ago, would have recognized the signs of an earthquake. You ever been in an earthquake? I've only ever been in one, and my friends from California, we lived in the Bay Area of San Francisco for 4 years, and we only experienced one, what I would call an earthquake. Californians wouldn't call it an earthquake at all. It was just a 3.9. They just kind of laughed at me when I got all paranoid and I was afraid. And I said, "What was that?" And they said, "Oh, that was just a minor earthquake. We were here for Loma Prieta in 1989. That was 6.9. That was a real rock and roller." But they would come to me and they would say, "You're from Texas, man. You got tornadoes down there. Those things are terrible. They're terrifying." And I would say, "Yeah, but you can see them coming. I mean, we have sirens and warnings and predictions, and most of the time, they don't just appear. Earthquakes, you have no warning. Tornadoes, at least you can find a shelter. You can go into your bathtub and pull a mattress over your head and put a football helmet on, or if you have a tornado shelter, you can go in there. But where do you hide in an earthquake? Oh, you stand in a doorway. What, so the rescue workers can find you easier? Is that, that doesn't make sense to me if the building's falling down around you. Because when the earth turns to pudding, where do you go? What do you hold on to? For the psalmist, when the earth gives way and the rug is pulled out from underneath us, we will have no fear. Because God is our refuge, our strength, and our ever-present help in trouble. God is our refuge. It's the Hebrew word machsech. Machsech. And it literally means that God is our fortress. God is our unshakable, strong tower. God is the cleft in the rock. God is the immovable refuge in which we hide. God is our strength. God is our Oz. And it is. It's the word Oz, basically. I don't know if Frank Baum, who wrote the story of the Wizard of Oz, knew Hebrew, but it's the Wizard of Strength. The Hebrew word for strength is Oz. And it doesn't just mean strength, it means formidable. It means ferocious. It means fierce. God is a formidable, fierce force in protecting us because he is our ever-present help in trouble. He is our Ezrach. He is our rescuer. He is our paramedic. He is our ER doc. He is our ever-present help in trouble. When the earth gives way and the mountains fall into the sea, we will not fear because God is our refuge. There's no doubt that we live in a world that is disorienting us. We live in a world that is radically changing, and none of us asked for this. None of us saw this coming. None of us wanted this to happen. But we find ourselves disoriented and we find ourselves confused because our lives have been disrupted. Because our lives have been turned upside down. Where is God in the midst of these things? I think we look to the same place that the psalmist looked 3,000 years ago. We look to the same place that Martin Luther looked 500 years ago. We know that the 46th Psalm was Martin Luther's go-to. It was kind of his theme song. In his life as an outlaw, in his life as a fugitive, he would find himself writing poems and writing songs and writing hymns. In fact, for many years, the Lutheran hymnal featured dozens of hymns that were written by Martin Luther. The most famous of those is called Ein feste Burg ist unser Gott. Ein feste Burg ist unser Gott. A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing, our helper he amidst the flood of mortal ills prevailing. The lesson from history from 3,000 years ago, from 500 years ago, is that God is present in our confusion, in our chaos. God is present in the disruption. The lesson of history is that he is our refuge. It was in December of 1903 that two young brothers from Dayton, Ohio, traveled to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It was there 4 miles south of Kitty Hawk on a windy day, December the 17th in 1903, that they assembled their powered kite that they called the Wright Flyer, a flying machine. And on that day in December of 1903, they conducted 4 trials of the Wright Flyer. The first flight that they took that day at 10:35 in the morning lasted just 19 seconds and went a total of 59 yards at a height of about 5 feet. By their final flight of the day, they had flown over 500 yards and stayed in the air for 59 seconds. And the desire that men had had for 10,000 years to join the birds of the air had become a reality on that day. Within just a decade, air flying machines and airplanes were being used in combat in World War I. In 1927, in May of 1927, a young man named Charles Lindbergh climbed into an aircraft called the Spirit of St. Louis and flew all the way nonstop from just outside of New York City to Paris, France. It took him 33 hours and 29 minutes. Over the course of just the next half century, in 1947, a man named Chuck Yeager would fly his Bell X-1 aircraft 75,000 feet in the air and break the sound barrier at 767 miles an hour. It was in 1969 that Neil Armstrong traveled over 500,000 miles and walked on the moon. By 1976, less than 3/4 of a century after the Wright brothers had flown just a few hundred yards on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, you could buy a ticket to get on the Concorde and fly from New York to London in 3.5 hours. After 10,000 years of desiring to fly like the birds, in less than 3/4 of a century, we had gone from flying less than 50 yards to flying across the Atlantic at supersonic speeds and walking on the moon. In an age of disruption, in a world that disrupts us, we find ourselves often with a disorientation. But ask yourself this question. Without that disruption, is that the life you want to live? You want to ride in covered wagons and sail in sailing ships? Do you want to use dial-up modems and 8-inch floppy disks that only contain 80K of data? Where would we be today, in this very moment, when in the circumstances that seem to be so disorienting us, so damaging our confidence, we couldn't even communicate like this. We couldn't be together in this moment. Is that where we want to be? You see, I think the question isn't so much, where is God in all this? Because, I see God. I see God in the emergency rooms of hospitals, where courageous men and women insert themselves into dangerous situations every day. I see God in the respiratory technicians and in the people who care for our parents and our seniors in nursing homes, in neighbors who bring food to each other, in bags and boxes of food that are placed in the trunks of hundreds of thousands of cars, providing millions of meals. I see God in the kindness of neighbors. I see God in the renewal of friendships. I see God in the people who stand up and say, we will not be made better of, but in the worst of times, you will get the best of us. It's here that I see God. I see God in all these places, in all these people, in all this kindness, and in all that grace. I see God there. And maybe the question, and it's a good question, where is God in all this? Maybe the question that is better for us to ask is, where isn't God in all this? May you find refuge in Him, because He is with us.
Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. The nations rage and the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our fortress. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress.
Come, behold the works of God, the nations at his feet. You break the bow and bend the spear and tell the wars to cease. Almighty One of Israel, you are on my side. I walk by faith in God, you burn the chariots with fire. Lord of hosts, you're with us in the fire, with us as a shelter, with us in
oceans roll, you are the Lord of all, the one who calms the wind and waves and makes my heart be still. Though the earth give way, the mountains move into the sea, the nations rage, I know my God is in control. Oceans roll, you are the Lord of all, the one who calms the wind and waves and makes my heart be still. Though the earth gives way, the mountains move into the sea, the nations rage, I know my God is in control. Lord, close you with us in the fire, with us as a shelter, with us in the storm. You will lead us through the fiercest battle. Oh, where else would we go with the Lord of with us in the fire, with us as a shelter, with us in the storm. You will lead us through the fiercest battle. Oh, where else would we go with the Lord of
We know you're with us, God. You will provide, God. Yes, God, you're our protection, Lord. We know you're with us, God. Through the storm.
Lord, we invite you into our homes. We invite you into our rooms. To our place where the busyness and chaos or the loneliness and space is. We invite you into this space.
He's with us.
We're going to play for a little while, and I want to encourage you, whether you're making lunch or hanging with your kids or just being alone. You don't have to do anything special. Just ask him to come.
Just feel his presence.
Ask him to fill your home.
Yes. Come on, Holy Spirit. Yeah. Come, Holy Spirit. We want to feel you. Yeah. Surround us. Give us your peace. That assurance. Still our fears. Still our anxiousness. drive away the loneliness. Yes, you are with us, God. Promised you never leave us, God. Stand on your promises.
Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here, I'm gonna find my rest. 'Cause without you, I fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. are you guys doing out there? Thanks, Craig, for the props. We all appreciate the encouragement. Becky, Joyce. Mark, Norm, it's good to see you guys. See your names. Barney, how are you doing? Let us know. Give us some. It's a good chance to be vulnerable, good chance to share what's going on in your life with us so we can pray for you. We can feel encouraged. We can share in your sorrow. We are a family. Even if we can't be together physically, we are a family. Nate, we're missing you, dude. John and Tammy. Connect us. Connect us. Connect us to you. Connect us to your family. Lord, would you connect us to our family? Connect us to you. Lord, would you connect us to our family? Connect us to you. 'Cause we are never, never alone. We are never, never alone. Connect us to you, Lord. 'Cause we are never, never alone. Connect us to you. Connect us. We are never, never alone. 'Cause we are together, together, together. 'Cause we are together, together, together. We are together, together, together. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. But it couldn't fail me. Man's empty praise find here in your love. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. Oh, I'm not afraid to show you my weakness.
That's right.
'Cause my failures and flaws, well, you've seen them all. You still call me friend.
Oh, yeah.
The God of the mountain,
It's the same God.
the God of the valley.
Same God of the valley.
There's not a place in mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. Turn mourning to dancing.
Yes, He does.
You give me beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory.
Yes, you do.
'Cause you're the only one who cares. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who cares. You turn grace into God.
Ain't no problem.
You turn bombs into art.
Yes, He does.
You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who cared. Only one. You're the only one who cared. You're the only one who cares. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you.
There's nothing better, no. Oh, nothing better than you. Yes, you're everything, God. Ain't no one nothing is better than you.
There's nothing that's better than you. There's nothing that's better than you. There's nothing is better than you. 'Cause you bring us together, together. 'Cause you bring us together. together. You bring together, together. You bring us together, together. You bring us together, together. Together, until you bring us together, together. You bring us together, together. You bring us together, together again. May you feel it. May you see it. May today bring you some encouragement. Thanks for being part of this family. Doesn't matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter where you're at. Thanks for being part of my family. Stick around all week for some of our fun stuff at 7:30 at night. Facebook. Give Angie some digital claps for singing with us. Man, I have missed her.
Together.
See you guys next time.